Dear students, welcome to today's lecture. I hope you all are doing well and ready to learn something important.
In this slide, we study the learning objective of this unit. The first objective is to understand the major reasons why employees resist organizational change. Students should be able to explain psychological, social, and economic cause of resistance. The second objective is to identify the factors that create resistance, such as fear of job loss, lack of skills, and poor communication. The unit also aims to develop knowledge of managerial techniques used to overcome resistance, including education, participation, negotiation, and support. Further, students are expected to study the overall change management process, understand the concept of planned change, and analyze the problem-solving approach to change. Finally, the unit helps students learn important principles and guidelines for handling change effectively in organization. Employees resist change mainly to protect themselves from real or imagined negative consequences. Human beings naturally fear unfamiliar situations. Sorry. In this slide, we study the reasons why people resist organizational change. Employees resist change mainly to protect themselves from real or imagined negative consequences. Sorry. Employees resist change mainly to protect themselves from real or imagined negative consequences. Human beings naturally fear unfamiliar situations. When new systems or procedures are introduced, employees feel insecure and uncomfortable. Adoption of new ideas require learning and effort, which many employees find difficult. Sometimes resistance is logical, especially when change affects job security, income, or status. Employees may also oppose the way change is implemented. Poor planning, lack of consultation, and unclear communication increase resistance. Resistance appear in various forms, such as passive acceptance, aggressive refusal, absenteeism, and work slowdown. Such behavior damage industrial relations. Therefore, management must restore group balance and help employees adjust to new situations. In this slide, we study the various factors responsible for resistance to change. One major factor is fear of technological employment. One major factor is fear of technological unemployment. Employees worry that machines and automation may replace their jobs. Many fears that increased efficiency will reduce the need for labor. Employees may also fear demotion because they lack the skill required for new jobs. Since learning new skills require efforts, they may avoid change. Employee may also fear demotion because they lack the skill required for new jobs. Since learning skill since learning new skills require effort, they may avoid changes. Human beings naturally prefer stability and resistance. Human beings naturally prefer stability and resist disturbance. Automation may also create boredom and reduce job satisfaction. Lack of complete information create misunderstanding and fear. Employees may feel that the new technology will reduce their status. Social adjustment required by changes are often disliked. Group pressure also encourages resistance. When employees are not consulted, they feel ignored and oppose change strongly. In this slide, we study the first set of managerial techniques to overcome resistance. Resistance can be managed at both individual and group level. One important method is education and communication. Managers explain the reasons, benefits, and logic of change. This reduces misunderstanding but requires times. Participation and involvement allows employee to take part in planning change. This increases commitment and creates a sense of ownership. However, it may slow down decision making. Education and training help employees develop new skills and change attitude. Training is provided through meetings, classes, and conferences. Though useful, it may be expensive. Facilitation and support involve providing guidance, counseling, emotional support, and necessary facilities to help employees adjust smoothly. Now, we study the second set of managerial techniques to overcome resistance. Negotiation and agreements are used when powerful groups are likely to lose due to change. Negotiation and agreements are used when powerful groups are likely to lose due to change. Managers offer incentives such as higher wages or job security. However, these methods can be costly. Manipulation and co-optation involve selectively sharing information and involving key individuals in decision making. It is quick but risky as employee may feel deceived. Now, explicit and implicit coercion involve using authority and threats, such as job loss or denial of promotion. This method is used in urgent situations but create long-term resentment. Now, we study how managers identify the need for change and set objectives. The first step is identifying the need for change by monitoring internal and external environments. Managers use feedback, reports, and observation to collect information. They decide whether change is people oriented, process oriented, or strategic. Next, objectives are developed through gap analysis between present and desired situation. Obsolete goals and are revised. Finally, objectives Finally, managers determine the type of change required in structure, technology, or people. Structural change include job redesign, technological change involve production method, and people change focus on attitudes and behavior. Now we study the planning and execution of change. Planning is the most critical phase. Managers decide the timing, method, and responsibility for change. They anticipate employee reaction and arrange training. Implementation involve communication plan, clearly convincing employee and allocating resources. Follow-up and feedback ensure continuous monitoring. Problems are identified early and corrective measures are taken. Feedback helps improve the change program. Now we study the role of groups in managing change. A group consists of individuals with A group consists of individuals with common interests who interact regularly and develop cohesiveness. Management must focus on groups rather than individuals. Group interaction encourages acceptance of change. Groups set and enforce norms. Peer pressure helps change individual behavior. Group discussions are highly effective in changing attitude and reducing resistance. Now, we study the meaning and concept of planned change. Planned change refers to deliberate efforts made by management to introduce change. According to Warren Bennis, planned change involves applying systematic knowledge to human affairs. Managers continuously monitor the environment, measure impact, and introduce suitable change. Planned change prepares the organization for modifying processes, structures, technology, and goals. It ensures organizational readiness and improves adaptability. In this slide, we study the main characteristics of planned change. Planned change is always deliberate, systematic, and rational in nature. It is not accidental but is carefully designed by managers using creativity and innovation. Managers analyze organizational needs and introduce changes in a scientific manner. Planned change aims at coping with environmental challenges and achieving new organizational goals. It helps organizations remain competitive and relevant. Such changes arises from both internal and external environments. When organizations grow, planned change guide them in the right direction. Planned change usually have a broad scope and significant impact. They may affect large sections of the organization. However, they are often difficult, costly, and painful. Employees may have to give up comfortable habits and sometimes jobs may be affected. Now we study the change as a process of problem solving and problem finding. Managing change involves moving from a problem state to a solved state. Diagnosis and analysis are essential to identify root causes. Goals are set at different organizational levels. Managers discuss ends and means and ensure they are properly linked. Planning is accompanied by efforts to gain employee support and commitment. This creates an orderly transition from one state to another. This approach is known as the planned change model. Some managers prefer to use the term opportunity instead of problems to avoid blame and punishment. They view problem as chance for improvement. Now we study the problem solving approach to change. From a rational and analytical perspective, a problem is a situation that requires action but lacks a clear solution. Therefore, managers must search for appropriate course of action. This search process is known as problem solving. It involves identifying alternatives, evaluating them, and selecting the best options. Problem finding refers to identifying situations that require attention. Whether called problem or opportunities, the objective remains the same: to bring about desired and predetermined change. Thus, effective managers focus on both problem identification and solution. In this slide, we study how change moves from one state to another using structured goals. Change involves leaving the present state and achieving a future state through an organized process. It may affect individuals, groups, departments, or the entire organization. Conceptually, change is movement from state A to state B. This movement is achieved through three types of goals. Transform goals identify differences between present and future states. Reduces Reduce goals focus on eliminating these differences. Applying goals involve implementing method to remove differences. Managers analyze changes by focusing on how, what, and why questions. In this slide, we study change as a how problems. This approach focuses mainly on methods and techniques. Managers ask how to increase creativity, responsibility, innovation, and productivity. The focus is on implementation rather than diagnosis. Goals are often implied rather than clearly defined. Because ends are not discussed, this approach may lead to ineffective outcomes. Therefore, excessive emphasis on how without proper analysis can be risky. Now we study change as a what problem. This approach emphasizes defining desired outcomes. Managers ask what is to be achieved, what changes are necessary, and what performance indicators should be improved. It helps in setting clear objectives and evaluating results. This approach strengthens goal orientation in change management. Now, change as a why problem. This approach focuses on identifying ultimate purpose. Managers analyze end means relationship and trace root cause. Why question help uncover fundamental organizational objective. They encourage innovative thinking and better alternatives. This approach connects organizational functions with long-term purpose. Now we study the management mindset and the depth of organizational change. A manager's position influence thinking pattern. Systems manager focuses on technology, marketing manager on customer, and senior manager on strategy. Lower level managers usually focus on short term adoption. Senior managers consider long term transformation. Most changes are adaptive, however, sometimes deep and far reaching changes are needed, requiring organizational redesign. Now we study five basic principles of change management. First, people react differently to change. Manager must recognize individual differences. Second, everyone has basic psychological and social needs. Third, change involves loss and employee experience the loss curve. Fourth, expectation must be managed realistically. And fifth, employee fear must be addressed through support and communication. This principle guide effective change leadership. Now we study the practical managerial guideline that should be followed for effective handling of organizational change. Effective change management requires not only for planning and strategy, but also sensitive handling of human emotions and expectations. Therefore, managers must follow certain important guidelines while implementing change. First, managers must maintain openness and honesty in communication. First, managers must maintain openness and honesty in communication. Employees should be given accurate and timely information about change. However, managers should avoid making over optimistic statement that may create unrealistic expectation. Information should satisfy employees' need for openness without misleading them. Second, when change affects large group, management must develop a proper communication strategy. Informed in, Information should be disseminated systematically and simultaneously to all employees so that rumors and grapevine communication do not dominate. After group communication, managers should conduct individual interview to understand personal reaction and provide customized support. Third, employees should be given choices wherever possible. Managers must clearly explain the consequences of different choices. This helps in fulfilling employees' need for control and inclusion and make them feel respected and involved in the change process. Fourth, managers must give employees adequate time to express their views and concerns. Decision making should be supported through coaching counseling, and information sharing. Special attention should be given to employees who are passing through the loss curve as they experience emotional stress during change. Fifth, when change involves loss of status, position, or comfort, managers should try to identify suitable alternatives to replace that loss. Loss become easier to accept when employees see new opportunities for growth, learning, or advancement. This reduces fear and insecurity. Sixth, managers should provide continuous reassurance and emotional support. Employees must be encouraged to share their anxieties and doubt freely. Management should respond with empathy and understand to reduce fear and resistance. Seventh, good management practices such as informal discussion, regular feedback, and personal interaction should never be neglected during change. In fact, during difficult period, these practices become more important for maintaining trust and morale. Finally, when organizations undertake major change programs, they should be treated as formal projects. This means applying project management techniques such as detailed planning, proper resources allocation, appointment of project sponsors, and establishment of monitoring system. These five principles of change management should be integrated into project objectives. Thus, by following these guidelines, managers can ensure that change is implemented in a systematic, human, and effective manner, leading to long-term organizational stability and success.
To conclude, change is unavoidable in organization, but people often resist it because it creates uncertainty and disturb their comfort and security. Resistance may occur due to fear of unemployment, loss of status, demotion, boredom due to automation, or difficulty in adjusting socially or psychologically. Such resistance can reduce cooperation and may even disturb industrial relations. Therefore, management must handle change carefully and systematically. To overcome resistance, managers use methods such as education and communication, participation and involvement, training, facilitation and support, negotiation, manipulation, and in extreme cases, coercion. Effective change management involves identifying the need for change, setting objective, planning, implementation, communicating properly, providing necessary resources, and reviewing process progress through feedback and corrective action. Groups play an important role in shaping employees' attitude, so group discussion become a useful tool for bringing acceptance. Planned change is a deliberate and rational process introduced to achieve new organizational goals. Overall, successful change management requires realistic expectation, honest communication, addressing fears, and supportive leadership to help employees adjust smoothly. Thank you, dear student, for your attention. If you found this video useful, please like and share it. And if you have any doubt related to this video, feel free to write them in the comment box. We will try our best to answer them. Thank you.